Hello there, welcome to Craft with Fee. This week's Tilda challenge is for the Tilda Friends Cat, which is on the Tilda Friends website, but I will pop a link down below. Could I also ask that if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please just click the little subscribe button down the bottom, as it really helps my channel to grow, and it would be great if you could do that. So what we need to do is to print the pattern off. So you've got all of your instruction sheets. The last 3 pages of the pattern are the actual pattern pieces. You need to print those onto cardboard. That makes it much easier for you to trace around your pattern pieces. Now I have put aside the pattern pieces for the dress and the bag because I'm going to make those in a separate video. Today we're just going to be making the cat itself. Now what you also need to do is that when you've cut out your body piece and your head piece, you just need to join them. You will see that there is a line up there for you to join them, and I've just joined them with some sticky tape. Put some sticky tape on there. Now I have my stone coloured Tilda doll fabric doubled over with the right sides together, and I'm going to be tracing around the body shape once. I'm also going to be tracing around the legs twice, and around the arms twice, and then around the ears twice. I'm going to be using a black friction pen, which you can use because that is dissolved with heat, and if I don't iron it before I sew on the lines, that will be fine. You can also use a pigment pen if you want, or even a pencil, but because this fabric is stone coloured, I'm going to go with the black for this one. So I'll go and do this off camera. I'll trace around the pieces for you and come back and show you. Now I'm also going to transfer the markings down here on the bottom of the body. Let me just show you these little dots here, because we're going to need to sew from dot to dot on either side here. So you just need to put those markings onto your pattern sheet, onto your fabric, and you need to also do the same here with this part of the head, because we're actually going to cut that out. But I will show you that when we get to it. Okay, there we go. They're all traced out. So now we're going to take them to the machine. I'm going to use some matching thread. On the ears up here, we're going to stitch all the way around the ears and leave this bottom part here open on both of them. On the cat, we are going to sew on the body, we're going to sew from the bottom. Let me just show you this bottom corner here. We're going to sew from the bottom corner, and we're going to go all the way up to the opening up here on the top of the cutout area, and then we're going to start down here and then do the same down through here. So we're just going to sew to there. Then down the bottom here, we're just going to sew from that tiny little mark right to the corner, and then we're going to do the same on the other side, and then I'll show you what to do after that. On the limbs, the arms and the legs, we're going to sew all the way around, the whole lot, on all of those. So we'll take this over to the machine and we'll go and do that. Okay, there we go. All sewn up. I've used a thread which is slightly lighter than the fabric, so hopefully you can see that stitching. I might just zoom in for you a little bit there. Yeah, there you go. You can see the stitching. So what we're going to do now is we're going to cut out all of these pieces with around about a 1/4 inch seam, and we'll clip the curves and I'll come back and show you. There we go, all cut out. So what you need to do is to, as I said, snip around the curves on your legs and your arms. Then you need to snip a slit just in one side so that you can turn your limbs into the right way. And that part is going to end up being against the body, so you won't get to see that. So turn all of your limbs in the right way and then stuff them nice and tight. So we'll just pop those away for a sec. Then with your little ears, you need to turn those in the right way. So I've turned one there. You then need to turn over the selvage on the end, on the edges. So there was a mark on the ear pattern there that you can see. That is how much you need to turn up. Just need to press it with an iron. The instructions say that you can put a little bit of stuffing in them if you want, but that's what you need to do with the ears. Now I have, of course, clipped around the curves on those as well. Now, the body. So what we need to do is to sew up the base. So you can see here that I have sewn a very small amount down the bottom there. I have cut in where the pattern said to. So we have the 2 areas here. So what we're going to do is we're going to box the bottom. And so that involves pulling that out like so that you have both of these seams meet on either side of the bottom of the body. Turn one seam one way and the other seam the other way, like so. Pop a couple of pins in, and then you are simply just going to stitch along the bottom. The same way, if you've made bags before, the same way that you box the corner of a bag is the same as how you box the corner of your little cat. And so you're going to repeat that for the other side as well. You can see you just stitch along there 1/4 inch from the edge. And now onto the top of the head where you've got this cut out area, you're going to do exactly the same. You're just going to match those two seams. Same thing, have them go in opposite directions like that. Pop a pin in. And then join up the other two selvages there. You're going to sew across the top of the back of the head there 1/4 inch. So you can see there that that is going to be the back part of the head. So I'll go and stitch it and I'll come back and show you. Okay, let me show you the top of the head. So we have our stitching here straight across the back of the head there, like that. So pretty easy, just a straight line all the way around. Now on the bottom here, we have boxed the bottom, you can see here, and now we have our hole in the center, which is for turning and for stuffing. So we just need to turn our body into the right way, and we'll do that now. There we go, our little kitty cat is turned. So we have our little head here like that. As I said, you can see across the back of the head there you have that nice flat back, and there's the little nose. So eventually the little ears are going to go up onto, oops, up the wrong way, up onto there, like so. And this is the base. So the base is boxed. We have a nice little flat bottom there. So we're going to go ahead now and stuff our body, get it fairly tight, and then we'll stitch closed our little opening at the bottom here. So that will give us to the point where we have a stuffed body, stuffed ears and stuffed limbs, and then we'll start putting it all together. Okay, so we've stuffed all the limbs, we've stuffed the body. So the body's been stuffed and been stitched up here on the bottom, as you can see. I've also stuffed the body and I have embroidered a little nose there. And you can see that I've made a few little eye marks with some pencil. I've stitched the ears on, and I did put a tiny bit of stuffing in those, and I did gather them up a little bit. So I've stitched them at the front and also at the back there, like so. Then the pattern calls for a big long needle. I've got a cat coming here to help me. Calls for a long needle to be put through the limbs right through so that they move. Now, I didn't have a long doll's needle. Well, I did have one, but it was too thick. So you really do need something thin, otherwise it damages the fabric. So I've actually just stitched them on to the side of the body, but did it so that they still move and the limbs do still move. So we have the legs and the little arms there attached. So now I'm going to go ahead and put the face on. I've just done a test with some paint on the end of a paintbrush, and as you can see here, dabbing it down like so gives me a little eye. So I'm going to be very brave and do the little face, and then I originally said that I would do another video for the clothing and the bag, but I've decided to tack it on the end of this one. So I'll clear off this mess and we'll come back and we'll cut the little dress out. Isn't she adorable? Her little eyes are dry now because it's the next day. But yeah, she's looking so gorgeous. But she, of course, needs a dress. She needs to have a dress. So the pattern is quite simple, I think. So I've gone ahead, I'll just pop her out of the way. Hop up there, sweetheart. I have cut out the pattern sheet, so you need the dress piece and you need the sleeve piece. So you need to cut 2 of the sleeves, and then you need to iron down 1 of the seam allowances there. So what I did to make sure I got it the right size was I popped it underneath and then ironed it down so that it matched the line there, and that made it the right size. So you need to do that on both sleeve pieces. And then you need your 2 little dress pieces there like that. Now I'm using some fabric from the Circus range. It's a beautiful floral fabric. So then what we need to do is to sew these sleeves. So sorry, that one goes that way. We need to sew them down onto here like so. So you're matching up this area here on your dress, on your dress with your sleeve. So this piece goes like so, and then you're going to be matching this edge here with this side of your sleeve here. So we just match that up. Pop a couple of pins in. You can see that's going to go on like that. So then we'll do the exact same on the other side. So we're going to do it so that the fold is on the bottom. So we'll match that up there. So you just need to sew them with a 1/4 inch seam in a matching thread. So for me, I'll use white, and then, oops. So there we go. So that's essentially what we are sewing. So we'll go and sew all those seams down now. Okay, so we've sewn these sides on, you can see here. And what that essentially does is if you fold it the other way, you can now see the form of the dress. So that's how the dress is going to look. You've got your little folded sleeves here. And this up here is your neckline. So what the pattern now tells you to do is to fold down a seam around your neckline and iron it down. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to iron it down just as we go. It is so cute. There we go. So we now have an ironed down neckline at the top of the little dress there, you can see. So what the pattern tells you to do now is to sew down the sides of the dress right up to the armpit. So you are going to take it to the machine and you're going to sew all the way up this seam on both sides. So once you've done that, you then turn it to the right side and give it a bit of a press, and you have your little dress like so. Now the pattern also calls for you to cut a piece of your fabric which is 2 inches wide by 19 3/4 inches long. This is for the frill for the bottom of your dress. So what you need to do is you need to join it up, the 2 short sides together, and sew it along there, and then you need to turn up 1/4 inch all the way around and press it down and sew it down. So I'll go and do that, and then we'll come back and show you the next step. Okay, so that's done. So we've got our lovely little edge here. You can see here that we have a beautiful folded over edge which has been sewn. Then the next thing it tells you to do, I've got all these loose threads here because it calls you to do a gathering stitch. Now you can either do this by hand or you can increase the stitch length. You can see there that I've got massive stitches. My machine will go out to 5 on stitch length. So just have a look and see what you can do with yours. And what that does is it creates a gathering stitch, and it'll actually allow you to pull your thread through like this. You can see that I'm pulling it through, and it will cause a gather. But as I said, if you don't want to do it on your machine, you can do it by hand. So all you've simply got to do is run a tacking stitch along the top, and the same sort of thing. You just keep pulling the thread so that you get a gather. I'm just trying to find the thread on this side here so I can pull the other side as well, because it helps if you pull from both sides and get a nice even gather. So what we're going to do is to pull it so that it is around about the same sort of width as your dress, there like that, and we're going to put it, I'm just going to find my seam, hang on, I'll just need to spread the gather out. You don't want it too gathered in one spot and not in others. And don't worry about all these loose threads here hanging, you can cut all those off later. Even if they get in your seam, you can still remove them. That's okay. But it's just important to get a nice even gather as much as you can. So we're going to sew it onto the bottom of the dress, right sides together. So the way that we do that is we pop the dress in like that. Now I'm going to match up my join to one of my side seams there. And we're just going to pin that in place. And then you just continue pinning your little gathered ruffle all the way around your little dress. I'm just trying to spread this gather out. Now I ran my gathering stitch about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. The pattern actually tells you to do it 1/4 of an inch, but if you do it 1/4 of an inch and then you sew your ruffle on with 1/4 of an inch, you're then going to have some of your gathering showing, which means that you're going to have to remove it, which is not really a problem if you've hand tacked it. It's very easy to remove. But if you have machine gathered, it's not quite so easy to remove. So just to avoid the actual problem, just run your gathering stitch a little bit closer to the edge than what your seam will be. And it'll all be hidden in your seam, so you won't have to see it. So, as I said, the biggest trick to putting this on is just to make sure that you get a nice even gather. But I'll do this off screen, just so I don't bore you, but you can see there what I've done. I've started to pin it down. Then we'll go ahead and just stitch it, as I said, with a 1/4 inch seam, which will be further in than our gathering stitch. Come back and show you when it's done. There we go, our little ruffle is sewn onto our dress. So you just have that little seam up inside there that you can see. So as you can see, I've done it 1/4 of an inch, and you end up with this beautiful little ruffle at the bottom of her dress. Very, very cute. So what you need to do now is to get her dressed. So we pop her inside her little dress. Maybe I should have gone the other way. But anyway, we'll get her dressed. And then what you need to do is you need to get some thread. I think I'm going to use a pink embroidery thread to match the pink in the little roses here. And you need to run a gathering stitch all the way around her neck to tighten the dress, and then you need to do the same with her little sleeves, and then just tie the little gather off. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll come back and show you. Okay, there we go. Now I've decided not to gather my little arms. I don't like them gathered. I would much prefer just this little puffed up look like that. I also adhered a little bit of a diamante there at the front of my gather on her dress, and I've also given her a little bit of blush on her cheeks. So now we're going to go ahead and make the bag. So you need to cut a piece of fabric here Let me just read the measurements again because I have forgotten. It is 1.5 inch by 12.5 inch. This is. And so what you need to do is you need to iron down 1/4 inch on either side, like so. So it's going to look like that, if you can see that. And then you're going to, once you've done that, then you're going to fold it over again so that you have a very small strip like so. And then you're going to sew down this folded edge where the two pieces meet, and that's going to make your strap. So you're going to do that all the way along. So I will come back and show you when it's ironed what you do. Now the other piece, you need to put your right sides together, and then you need to trace your bag piece. So this is your bag pattern piece. You just need to trace around that. And now you also need to sew all the way around on this traced line, but you need to leave a small gap for turning. So I'll go ahead and do that, and I'll go ahead and do this as well, and then come back and show you that. Okay, so I've sewn all the way around. I've left the opening here on one end, which is marked on the pattern sheet. So I am now going to be cutting it out, leaving a 1/4 inch seam or thereabouts. And I might just clip these curves here, just so we get a nice finish. Okay, so we're just going to turn it to the right side. Might need to use something to poke it through. It's pretty good actually. Just use the end of my pencil just to get that shape through. Okay, so then what you need to do is to press it, this seam here, closed, so that you're keeping them in line with the shape of the bag. So around like that. And it says to hand stitch closed, but I'm actually going to machine stitch mine, so I'll be back. Okay, I've machine stitched it. So what I've also done is I have actually ironed it in half, because what we're going to do is we're going to poke one half of the bag into the other half of the bag. So we're essentially, that's why I've made that ironed mark at the top, so I can see where the halfway mark is, you see, and you're going to be turning half the bag into the other half, so you've actually got an inside and an outside. And then you can press it so that you've got your little bag there. And then all you need to do is to attach your little handles, so you can attach them to the inside or the outside. It's up to you. I think the pattern says to do it on the inside. And then you have your beautiful little bag for your kitten. Isn't it adorable? Just gorgeous. So there you go. I'll pop a photo of the finished cat at the end of this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been a bit long-winded, but we've got there in the end, and it's a beautiful project. I absolutely love it. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel. It really does help me. If you could do that, I would really appreciate it. See you next week. Bye.